I think one thing's for sure, you can't slow down the adoption of technology, specifically in finance, but really in just any department as a whole. So CFOs are going to be faced with what could be challenging task. Fight it or join it. And to me, you're not really going to be able to fight against automated bookkeeping and all these different technologies sitting on top of Excel and helping with your FP&A. At the end of the day, the strongest opportunities are going to be to those who work with the technology as opposed to trying to outperform it.
I love it. Everybody, that's fire right there. You heard it here first from Josh. Either get on the wave or get swept by it. What's up, everybody? This is Chris Ortega back with you with another Collectiv Conversation. I'm really excited today. As we kick off this year, we're going to be talking with Josh Aharonoff, CEO and founder of Mighty Digits. This one's a really special episode. Really excited to collaborate and partner with you on Josh. I love everything that you're doing on LinkedIn, man. You absolutely have so much gold nuggets. Josh, welcome to Collectiv Conversations.
Thanks, Chris. Awesome to be here.
This episode is going to be the ultimate CFO's guide to 2023. And one of the first things that we're thinking about this year is like, what are the challenges? What are some of the pitfalls? Like, if you were to give those top 3 greenfield opportunities for CFOs to conquer this year, what would those be?
It's a great question. I think it always comes back to technology and adoption of technology. I'm amazed at how many software providers have entered the space, specifically around finance and accounting technologies, whether it's a company like Ramp, which does AP, expense reimbursements, and virtual credit cards. I love those. Payroll providers have gotten so much easier to use. Financial modeling software, accounting softwares are getting better. Really understanding how to use these technologies is just so key for a CFO.
I feel like every day there's a new cutting edge technology, right? And to me, it's starting to complement the office of the CFO. Traditionally, when you looked at software adoptions before, you have all your FP&A tools, you'll have all your budgeting and forecasting, you have all your ERPs. But one thing I'm starting to see that I'm really excited about are those point solutions. Like specifically around cash management and AR management and billing and AP and collections. A lot of these functional areas inside of accounting where you just traditionally see a lot of people, and now you're starting to see technologies that are fully maintaining that entire curve, right? Like technology adoption. And that's something that CFOs traditionally and just finance organizations overall, we struggle with technology adoption, right? We want to make sure we have the laundry list of checklists of things we have to go through to make sure we adopt the technology, right? Has to be audit compliance, has to be risk compliance. It has to have all these different criteria before we implement it. So when you think about that technology adoption curve and CFOs traditionally being laggards, what are some ways that the office of the CFO and the CFO can move up that technology adoption curve?
I'm a little bit biased because I work with just dozens of startups each month. So whether I like it or not, I'm being thrown in front of all these different technologies that they're maybe already using by the time I sign up with them. I'm really just a big fan in general of Excel, like just the bare bones and what you need to do there. I think the Power Query functionality that Excel has brought to the table in the last few years is just insane that many CFOs I don't think are really aware of. So even going down to just the bare minimum of the software you're already using and going deeper and understanding how you can utilize that software like Power Query to extract information, transform the information, reload it, and just automate a number of processes, I feel could be a huge step in the right direction.
The office of the CFO, Josh, as much as you see, we're never going to get away from Excel, right? We're constantly not going to build our entire domain and the value add that we have to organizations in the future around Excel. But I definitely agree. And one of those tools that I like to highlight is Power BI, right? When I work with a lot of different high growth companies and they're using Excel and they're like, Chris, man, we're doing a software adoption, we're looking at Tableau, we're looking at all these different tools, and I'm like, have you even thought about Power BI? And the reason why I love Power BI so much is because you're able to have that Gartner leading business intelligence platform that gives you a lot of that same familiarity of Excel, of Power Query, of Power Pivot, and you get the cohesiveness of, being in an Office 365 environment, that you can have that collaboration, you can have Power Automate, you can build so many things around Power BI. And I mean, honestly, like last time I checked, the Power BI Pro license was just $10 a month. So yeah, to all those CFOs and VPs of finance and CEOs out there, don't go to Starbucks one time a month and you can afford a Gartner leading business intelligence platform like Power BI. What has been kind of your exposure or like impact of like Power BI specifically as it relates to the office of the CFO and that value to the business?
It's a great question. Honestly, Power BI is the one technology that I have not gotten familiar with. And I really wish I would, because there's no doubt that a data visualization platform that sits on top of your data can add tremendous value, can reduce a lot of inefficiencies. I've heard a lot of great things about Power BI, but I haven't actually given it a shot.
Gotcha. Yeah, so for all those watching this, if you want to learn more about Power BI and how it like helps the office of the CFO turn data into insights into information, knowledge to collaborate, make sure you check out the Collectiv group. So changing gears a little bit, we talked a lot about technology and the impact it's going to have on the office CFO this year. What are your thoughts about like the CFO changing the value proposition as it relates to their people? What impact do you think that has this year for the office of the CFO, specifically around people?
It's a good question. I don't know if I really feel that 2023 is going to bring much of a difference in terms of the CFO's responsibility and the people that they work with. We hopefully are coming out of a challenging point in the economy, and it could be challenging for organizations to actually invest in a full-time CFO. So right. I think we're faced now more than ever with the CFO's responsibility to add a ton of value, not just in understanding how to present financial statements or understanding how to run an audit, but actually understanding how to work with people. And in the event that there are going to be budget cuts, for everyone in the company to say, there's no way you can get rid of the CFO because we love him or her so much, we actually need to keep that person. So I think it's going to be still just as important, if not even more important now, for a CFO to invest in the relationships with those around him or her.
That's a fire moment right there. CFOs need to get back to investing in the people. And this is where I think I get to, talk with a lot of people across the world, right? All across the world. And they talk about this concept of the fractional CFO. And I know you do a lot of work around that. Mighty Digits. I know you help scale finance and accounting operations within inside organizations, right? When you look at that balance of businesses still needing that technical expertise, they still need that leader that has the battery included, but they necessarily don't have the budget to go hire, to train, to invest. And now it takes that 4, 5, 6 month ramp time before you actually get that person being productive. So this has created an opportunity for fractional CFOs to really come in and provide that instant value, whether there's strategic direction, where there's tactical execution, or where there's business partnerships around that. So I guess my question to you is, how do you see that role of being a fractional CFO expanding this year?
I certainly see a huge opportunity for it to expand. I think, fractional CFOs, I don't know, I myself am young in my career, but I feel like a decade ago, it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't as common. Especially now with like Zoom and everything being in the cloud, you can just connect with a fractional CFO anywhere to help run your books. So I do think the world is moving more and more towards fractional solutions, and it's not really just a CFO. If you think about it, although a fractional CFO is most likely going to be more cost efficient than a full-time hire, you're not going to want to hire a fractional CFO to do your bookkeeping, to pay your vendors, to do bank reconciliation, because at the end of the day, a bookkeeper could be doing that. Instead, I encourage companies to think about investing in fractional finance and accounting support as a whole, where maybe they bring on the CFO, the fractional CFO, and that fractional CFO dictates who else needs to be a part of the organization, either on a fractional or a full-time basis.
Yeah, I have a big network of people that are like fractional CMOs and fractional CROs and fractional human resource officers. And one thing that is like their prevailing winds is like the business is still demanding like this expertise and this knowledge. Like business still needs to get done. There's still like budgets that need to get planned, rolling forecasts to get updated, HR rules to implement, sales and go-to-market strategies to have. But this is where you can tap into that resource, right? And one thing I think is created is like an opportunity for a lot of professionals to still have their big boy, big girl job, but now have these passion projects that they can work on, right? I mean, when I look over my career, that's how I kind of jumped into the fractional CFOs. Like I had my big boy job in leading high growth like SaaS companies, and then I just was doing consulting and transformational work and fractional CFO work on the side, and then I just made that my full-time opportunity. So I think that is where a lot of people looking at this, you could still get that same horsepower, right? But you're getting it for a fraction of the cost. That's the value add of it, is you're getting it for a fraction of the cost, but you're leveraging all this expertise, right? You're leveraging people that's been there, done it, know all the pitfalls, know all the challenges, know all the risks that come along with it. And you're getting that horsepower like day one. I look at businesses in like 3 different phases, right? You had the pre-pandemic, you had the pandemic, and you had the post-pandemic, right? And we're obviously done a couple years outside of this post-pandemic phase. What have been some of those like key changes inside the business partnership that finance has had that's going to continue forward this year?
Probably the biggest thing is the adoption of the cloud and how everything is virtual now. When I started my career, I started at KPMG. I still remember how much of a nightmare it was having to go to the copy machine and print things and make copies. And it would take me sometimes like 20, 40 minutes just sitting there making sure that the staples went in, let alone having these huge filing cabinets and folders. Now, in my business, believe it or not, I don't even own a printer. Now, sometimes that is a little bit annoying, like a bank requires, not like I actually sign and like mail something. Also, I go to like a FedEx. But for the most part, I'm like totally fine just having everything in a secure file repository. Our software is moving away from being on-prem instead of being on the cloud, like QuickBooks and NetSuite and all these other platforms, I think has been huge. Similarly, I think just as a whole, the world seeing how doable it is to work remotely with other people. Before the pandemic, believe it or not, even though the pandemic hadn't kicked off yet, we were still an entirely remote company. And I had made it a mission to prove to the world that we can be a successful remote company. When the pandemic hit, it was like everyone was forced to see, well, this is actually fairly doable. Everyone just connecting via Zoom and Slack. It certainly has its challenges and things to overcome. But at the end of the day, it's a very viable solution. It saves you on office rent. It saves you on commuting time. So the fact that now we can use these video chat softwares like Zoom, Google Meets, many of them even like free that come with like a G Suite account, I think that's incredible and has made a huge difference in this whole movement of working with fractional solutions. I can only imagine what things are going to look like in a decade from now, where you're wearing some sort of glasses and you're like sitting in the room next to someone, looking at a chart, and it's like you're right there next to the person. So I think it's only going to get more and more like that.
Josh, man, that sounds super futuristic, but I loved your point. And that I think that's one of the key takeaways that I've had from this post-pandemic too, is when you're an employer and you're saying everybody needs to be at work 5 days a week from 9 to 5, you're going to lose out on a lot of talent. Well, I know people that are European-based companies that are hiring remote workers in the United States. Like they're tapping in to this huge amount of resources, this huge potential, because they see the opportunities like, hey, we can get a talented person, a talented software person, a talented FP&A leader, a talented CFO. And yeah, we may have to deal with the time zone, but that still is equally as great. And like you actually open the doors to all this talent. So how has that talent opening really changed the game in terms of access for the CFO?
I mean, I think it's a huge game changer where calling out the elephant in the room with regards to just the different standards of living in the world. A lot of companies are moving towards offshoring. Now, we have a number of offshore members on our team, and I mean, we absolutely love it. We're able to hire at a more affordable rate and offer a value to our clients at a reduced rate because of that. Whereas before, when everything was in person, you're kind of only dealing with the US economy, which is one of the strongest economies in the world. What worries me sometimes is it one day going to harm the US economy with all this offshoring, with how easy it is to connect with a fractional CFO at a country where there's a much lower standard of living, but the skill set is just as much as someone in the US, if not even higher. Ooh, but wow. To me right now, I see it as a tremendous opportunity. And I think companies that don't utilize it are really missing out.
I love the angle that you mentioned it, right? Because now if you can go access that CFO or that VP of finance or that accounting, right? Could that be something like biting or a disadvantage to future accounting, finance, FP&A people of the future? That's a really, really interesting point. So I know we're coming up on time, and one question I always like to ask every guest is looking into that crystal ball, right? If you were in Vegas and had that $500 to put down on a one bet of how you think this year is going to go, like what would be that theme, or what would be that value proposition, or what would be that opportunity that fractional CFOs or CFOs can really capitalize that really changes the game this year?
I think one thing's for sure, you can't slow down the adoption of technology, specifically in finance, but really in just any department as a whole. So CFOs are going to be faced with what could be challenging task. Fight it or join it. And to me, you're not really going to be able to fight against automated bookkeeping and all these different technologies sitting on top of Excel and helping with your FP&A. At the end of the day, the strongest opportunities are going to be to those who work with the technology as opposed to trying to outperform it.
I love it. Everybody, that's fire right there. You heard it here first from Josh. Either get on the wave or get swept by it. Technology is here to stay. Technology is meant to amplify the office of the CFO. Technology is meant to get your people out of those low value activities and get them over to the high value activities. Josh, man, thank you so much for this conversation. If anybody else wants to follow you, learn more about Mighty Digits, or learn how to interact with you, where can they find you? What are some resources to give to everybody?
Sure. So you can check me out on LinkedIn. I post every single weekday with finance and accounting tips at Josh Aharonoff. You could also find our services at mightydigits.com or send me an email, josh@mightydigits.com.
Awesome. Josh, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for everybody watching this episode of Collectiv Conversations. Make sure to stay tuned. Hit like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell on the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any future Collectiv Conversations. Josh, thank you so much, man. It's a privilege and honor to collaborate with you. Looking forward to working with you and seeing all the great things that you're doing, brother.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chris.